Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. It opens in Borneo with the descendant from a tribe of headhunters stalking a tiger. It's scared away by a giant anaconda that chases the man through the jungle, and when it catches him, drags him up a tree. The warrior stabs it to escape but gets pursued again off the edge of a cliff and into a small pond. When he attempts to escape, the submerged water boa drags him back under as red flower petals fall on the water's surface. Meanwhile, in the Big Apple, relationship manager Gordon talks to a pharmaceutical company about the means of prolonging life. His employer Jack educates the board on the Blood Orchid that they believe's the origin of the fountain of youth, as they've proved it reduces aging. The board member Gail doesn't reckon they'll get approval for human trials, but she's just the biggest hater of the group. The rest of the board are told that the orchid only blooms once every 7 years, so with the promise of a new powerful Viagra, they send Gail to Borneo to retrieve them more. She accompanies Jack's team to the island, but it's experiencing a typhoon and none of the locals are willing to take them upriver until it passes. Jack's intern Samantha asks around and finds the address of a local captain who's willing to do anything for the right price. They hear that his name's Jin Soon and just assume that he's the Indonesian deckhand Tran, but it's just a translation issue from Captain Bill's last name Johnson. He's offered $25,000 to take them to the orchid's location, but makes them pay $50 as the pair know the tourists must be desperate. He shows the team to his rundown riverboat called the Bloody Mary that he bought after leaving the army to get away from killing. The rest of Jack's employees arrive, who are all his former med students, as it's the best way to find upcoming talent, which is why everyone's so young. They set off on their 4-day journey to retrieve the Blood Orchid while having their technician Cole come up with a shortcut on his computer. Despite the route being unfamiliar with Jin Soon, he's desperate for the money and puts up with Gordon's constant arguing with Gail over the funding. She continues to complain the entire trip and gets terrified by the captain's pet monkey Kong, who has more right to be here than she does. Dr. Ben joins them as the last member of the crew, but spends the entire time hitting on Sam, who's only hater on the boat's Gail. The first night she says that she's jealous of the younger med student for getting where she is when it took herself 10 years to achieve it. When the group sit to eat, Kong attempts to take a banana but has already had dinner and is told by Bill to control himself. He can't and climbs onto a fruit tree to cheat, but gets left behind by the Blood Mary and stranded overboard with an equally as hungry anaconda. It chases Kong into a hollowed out log, then out the other end and up a tree where the monkeys heard screaming in the distance. The crew hear it, but Bill just says that everything's food for something else down here, unaware that Kong's not on board. The next day, while he's looking for his monkey, Gail's trying to get reception back to the mainland and falls overboard. Before she can get back onto the boat where the team laugh at her misfortune, Gail's attacked by a crocodile, so Bill leaps in to rescue her and stuffs a crate in its jaws. He starts stabbing the croc while Tran attempts to line up a clear shot but isn't able to without hitting his captain. Luckily, he stabs the thing to death and impresses the whole team except for the city girl, who's just upset that her phone got wet. They inadvertently feed the anaconda and continue on while Gordon tells the locals that 50 flowers should be enough to make the end-all cure. Gail still doubts they'll get it past human trials when suddenly Kong returns, startling her, having survived the terrifying ordeal. On the next night, it's revealed that Jack really did invite Sam just to have another go at her, but he's rejected once again. He's told by the captain that the water's risen to an unsafe height, but Jack personally pays him an extra $50,000 out of his own money to push on. Meanwhile, Gail and Gordon continue to argue about the flower and lack of money until getting so angry that they sleep together. The next morning, while fighting against the rapids, they miss their turnoff and begin heading straight towards a massive waterfall. The Bloody Mary goes down and Bill loses his home along with the money promised to get the tourists to their location safely. They narrowly avoid a giant water boa exiting the river and discover that they only have a few supplies left, including a map and a short-range radio. Without any authorities in the area, they have a 2-day walk to reach the captain's friend John, who also operates a boat on the river. He's offered $5,000 to meet them 2 days away, and they begin trekking through the jungle, with Kong being the only one aware of the immediate danger. This is when Ben tries to impress Sam when he notices her looking at Tran and borrows the captain's machete to try seem more manly. They reach a river crossing that'll take another 2 days on top to go around, so Bill just recommends they go through it. As the group wade through the water, Kong attempts to alert them to the anaconda swimming between them, but nobody ever understands the monkey. The doctor guards the rear when he's suddenly dragged under and after a few thrashes emerges bloodied and beaten, only to be followed up by the giant serpent that snatches him up in front of the rest of the team. They cross the river, and while most of the group freaks out, Bill assures them that it should take weeks for it to grow hungry again after a meal that big. They call the expedition off, and the captain rejects any further offer from Jack, who says that he'll just make Bill's friend John the same offer once they reach him. Nothing comes of it, but they notice that Cole has many leeches on his back that need to be burned off while they take a rest. While attending his blisters, Tran prevents Gordon from putting his shoe on, saving him from a stone spider that would have paralyzed him for 2 days if it had bit him. The scientist Jack decides to take the spider for further study, and then everyone resumes the journey to the meeting spot with John. Unfortunately, he has a run-in with a giant anaconda and is unable to reach his gun case in time before it kills him and accelerates the boat. It crashes into the riverbank and goes up in a ball of fire that's seen by the team emerging from the jungle nearby. They reach the wreckage and are disappointed for losing their means of escape, but scrape together a few essentials including fuel. Tran finds flayed fish as the result of the headhunters' tribe and figure that if they can reach the locals they might be safer. While continuing their journey, they come across Captain John's regurgitated corpse and realize that there must be multiple giant anacondas. Bill figures that it must be mating season and that all of the male anacondas have gathered here to find the nearest female in heat. The group eventually locate a deserted village after the males slithered through and find a disemboweled anaconda with a dead villager inside. All of the tribe's boats have been taken, so Bill decides that they should build one of their own out of the abandoned huts before another male comes through. They begin to construct a raft as the sun goes down, and Jack finds a carving belonging to the headhunters of the Blood Orchid. He speculates that the serpents have become so large because they've adopted the flower into their diet and their lives are extending. When they finish building the raft, Gordon discovers that Jack had secretly obtained John's gun case containing a satellite phone and realizes he could have called for help long ago. He attempts to, but Jack uses the rock spider to paralyze his partner and pretends to the rest of the team that he's just resting his feet. Sam doesn't trust him obviously and returns to the hut to find Gordon unresponsive, but doesn't see the anaconda in the rafters that he tries to warn her about. She leaves just in time to interrogate the traitor, who's about to draw the gun when suddenly Kong alerts them to Gordon's unsavory departure. Bill quickly sets the hut on fire, burning the snake alive, but in their distraction Jack steals the raft and floats away. With no more materials left to make another raft, Sam comes up with the plan to bushwhack through the jungle to the Blood Orchids and take theirs back from Jack. They rush through the dense trees until falling into a cave and getting separated, where Cole's all alone, getting lost in the dark and panics at the sight of skeletons. He comes across Tran, who calms him down before trying to escape, until Tran falls through a hole in the cave floor into an underwater chamber he's unable to escape from. An underwater anaconda attacks to begin constricting him as Cole runs away and Bill arrives too late to save his friend. They both make it back to the rest of the group and escape the caves through a tunnel, but the snake follows the trailing Cole. He barely manages to escape the tight squeeze, and when it exits behind them, Sam uses Bill's machete to behead the snake. Before they can celebrate, Cole's grabbed by another anaconda and dragged into the jungle, where the team follow to find him being constricted in the trees. Here this time Bill manages to throw his knife into the snake's head, killing it and freeing Cole, who regains consciousness soon after. Elsewhere, Jack reaches the Blood Orchids, but it requires him to climb across a log bridge over top of the mating ball of Anaconda. The rest also arrive at this time and try to quickly take the raft behind his back, but Jack catches them when he returns and shoots Bill in the arm when he draws his knife. He forces the group to accompany him to the orchids, where he knocks out Bill, has Gail tie Cole up, and sends Sam across the pit to retrieve him some flowers. She makes it across no problem and fills a bag full of the orchid, but when making her way back the log starts to crack and she's unable to continue. At gunpoint, Jack orders her to throw him the pack, but when she does, Bill strikes him, dropping it onto the edge of the cliff. Thinking of nothing else, Jack attempts to retrieve it when the stone spider paralyzes him and he's unable to reach out for a helping hand before falling into the pit. Sam attempts to make it across, but the log gives out and she falls into the pit of snakes with him, but the males are distracted fighting over Jack, allowing Sam to climb back up. The queen follows her up alone, but Gail tricks it into targeting her with the gas canister, giving it a mouthful of fuel. Bill tries to shoot it, but the gun's been empty the whole time, so Cole's able to catch it in the mouth with a flare gun. The snake retreats into the pit for protection, but the remaining fuel canister ignites at the center of the ball, destroying the queen and causing a large cave-in. It squishes the last remaining male when it also brings down the cliff containing all of the blooming blood orchids that are lost for the next 7 years. Bill, Sam, Cole, Gail, and most importantly Kong make it out alive and take the raft back towards civilization. Gail and Kong have made up and are getting along, while Bill suggests another shortcut, but everyone else advises against it. And the movie ends.